All right. Good evening and welcome. It is another beautiful Wednesday night. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Phillip Ramos. And tonight we are going to be interviewing Heidi Paulsen. Sorry, my dog distracted me because she jumped up behind it. So this will be great. This is going to be on the YouTube. So my kids just left and they forgot to shut my office door. So here she is with us. So she's going to be joining us tonight. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Phillip Ramos, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm a Gallup Clifton Strengths coach, and I work for a company by the name of 3 Key Elements. They're a local self-development company. Super grateful to be a part of the team, super grateful to be a part of there. As I jump in let me just take a few minutes here to introduce kind of myself as we get into what we're going to be discussing tonight in terms of strengths. So tonight, as you can see, we're going to be interviewing Heidi Paulsen. Her top 5 are developer, empathy, connectedness, and it looks like we cut the S off there, connectedness, positivity, and learner. So absolutely have, so I've been working, off and on with her for some time. She was part of a group that I was teaching in. And so she has come a long way in utilizing her strengths, learning her strengths. So I'm super excited to have her here tonight. As for myself, let me introduce my beautiful wife. This is Melissa, my wife. This is a picture that we took on the morning of our 21st anniversary in Sugar House Park. She's the love of my life. She's actually the person that got me interested in self-development, interested in 3 Key Elements, actually. She was the one that first introduced us to and our family. But she's always been that instigator, if you will, for growth, self-development, change, and I'm grateful to have her in my life. My family here, my 2 beautiful boys, this is Sebastian and Manolo, and of course my wife here. My oldest boy, Sebastian, is preparing to leave on his mission. He's going to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Spanish speaking. And in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, May 9th, it is literally right around the corner is when he starts. So he's super excited. In fact, I was thinking about it today because he's, has to practice Spanish and that sort of thing. And I thought, I need to start teaching strengths in Spanish. So I've seen a couple people do it, a couple coaches that I've watched and listened to. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should do that. I'm going to dive into that. But just, I super grateful for them, grateful for the foundation that they've created in my life as my family. Again, like I said, I work for 3 Key Elements, and grateful to be a part of their team. Kirk and Kim Duncan are the president and vice president of the company, and their passion has always been to help people reach their goals, activate their minds, manage their emotions, and they've done it extremely well for quite a few years. They're very good at what they do. And so I feel blessed to be a part of this team and grateful to be here. Well, as we're getting started tonight, I want to thank everybody for jumping on. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is an interview that we do each Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., where we interview different people, and I've put them on YouTube, and we're starting to get views. I've had some people reach out to me. It's fun to share with people how they're utilizing their strengths. And I want to clarify a couple different things. Number one is when I talk about strengths, people think that I'm a strengths coach. They ask me, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a strengths coach, right? And so I have to clarify quite a bit of that because I don't necessarily coach people in the gym. It's not what I do. What I do is I help people understand the way they naturally think, feel, and behave, and more importantly, what motivates their processes, what motivates their decision making, what motivates them taking action, and also at the same time, what holds them back. And so that's super, super important. So what I do is once people have taken what's called the Clifton Strengths assessment, I'm going to put this up here. This is Heidi's assessment. So you guys can kind of take a look before we interview. But this right here is her assessment. So when people go and they take this assessment, it's a 25-page assessment. And there's lots of information in here for people to read over, look at, understand, see the benefits from. But what I specifically do is I coach people once they have this on how to use it. And more importantly, what I do is I coach people on very specifically their motivators and their needs. That's really where I specialize as a coach, as what I'm really good at, and what I help people with in terms of their strengths. There's other strengths coaches that are just going to basically tell you what each mean and that sort of thing and how they work. But really what I love to do is as you decide. So for example, when I talk to people and they say, Phillip, I have goals, and I ask them, okay, so tell me what your goal is. What do you want to accomplish? What are you working on? And then I want to get familiar with, I want to figure out, so do they know the action steps that it takes to get there, right? Well, once they know where they're headed, right? They know the goal, they know the action steps. Part of what I teach people is just because this person right here knows how to reach this goal, and this person right here knows how to reach the goal, doesn't always mean that everybody gets their goal, right? Just because it makes sense, or just because it's easy for someone else to do this thing, we don't always get the same result, right? We don't always get the same goal. And so it's more than just understanding really what the action steps are, right? What are the specific things I have to do? What I teach people is the way you naturally think, feel, and behave, and the way someone else thinks, feels, and behave dramatically changes their motivators. So as you can see, these two bars here, right? This one leads with relationship building, influencing, executing, and strategic thinking. This one here leads with strategic thinking, influencing, relationship building, and executing. So what that means is they have different motivators. So the goal can be the same. The goal can be money. Let me spell it right first, and then maybe make some more space for it. So the goal can be money, right? The goal can be, let's see, it could be a home. It could be something specific. It could be business. Oh, yay, I spelled it right. Okay, so it really doesn't matter what the goal is. And the action steps, right? How the action steps to make money, the action steps to do business. What I focus on is understanding the way you naturally think, feel, and behave, and more importantly, helping you understand the way you naturally think, feel, and behave is going to dramatically change how you engage in the action steps, and also what's hindering you in the action steps. So for example, let's say this particular person here, they lead more with relationships and influencing. There's certain components and motivators and things that are important to them on the road to money, okay? This person here, there's certain processes from a strategic thinking process, from a thought process, from a thinking process, these different processes that are going to motivate this person inside their action steps. It's going to change some of the things that they struggle with. It's going to change some of the things that hinder them. And so the more and more people understand, not so much what you want and where you're headed is, I think in a lot of cases, is very similar to all of us, right? The action steps to get there. I mean, let's just pick health. Let's just say health in general. Okay. Can we honestly say, by the raise of hands, do we know how to be healthy? Do we know what to eat? Do we know what exercise we got to do? We know how, right? The how to get there, and the action steps. I got to go to the gym. I got to eat more vegetables. I got to take processed food out of my diet, right? Eliminate sugar, all of these different things. We understand that, but it's the motivators behind those action steps, right? The motivators behind, okay, taking this out of my diet, or, going to the gym. I was working with a gal the other day who was really struggling with weight, and this was one of her goals. And within her strengths, what I was trying to show her, that she very much is, because she leads so much with relationships, doing something like the gym by themselves does not seem appealing, does not seem something like they want to do. It's something that you want to do with a relationship, with a partner. I was talking to that, they had includer, they had relator. And all of a sudden, and so what I did was I asked them, tell me about a time when you were doing good in the fitness and your health goal. What were you doing? And she goes, believe it or not, me and my sister, we went every single day together. If I didn't go, she didn't go. If she didn't go, I didn't go. And we kind of stopped that. And so it's a great example that it's not so much that this person doesn't know what they need to do in order to reach their health goal. It's they're not motivated behind it unless they clearly understand, what are the things that I need? What are the things that really motivate these processes? And so what is important for you to understand is there's a variable here. Right? Do you know what it is? It's you. You are the variable. The way you naturally think, feel, and behave is the variable in this process, in this equation here. Same thing. The way I naturally think, feel, and behave is the variable inside of this equation. It changes not necessarily my action steps. It just changes the motivation behind it. It changes some of the needs that I have, right? So, and I talked about this last time. So my wife, so if I have a health goal, right? Or let's just say the goal is the same, and these are my top 3 strengths. These are some of the motivators. These are some of the things that I have. I just got to feel good about the goal and I'm moving forward, right? I can take action. I'm game. I'm good. My wife, on the other hand, the same exact goal, the same exact thing, there is different components here because she's motivated by different processes. So let me show you her. So hers is, influencing next. That's what I thought. So this right here, she doesn't have activator. Well, she has activator, sorry, she didn't have woo. She has strategic and futuristic. So this right here, it's a little bit less than mine. So this right here is an example of what Melissa's needs are. So her health goals, man, let's go have fun. Let's go to the gym. Let's do it, babe. Let's wake up. Let's take action. I'm game for that. Melissa, she needs a strategy. She needs a plan. She needs a roadmap to start that process. She's got to see, Phillip, now that we're going to go do this, what's it going to look like? So her activator, she needs all of these different things here in order to make sure that she's ready to take action. Does that make sense? So it's super important that when you guys look at this, you look at this. So when people ask me, Phillip, what do you do, right? How do I actually help people? And more importantly, just strengths in general. I want you to just think about strengths. The value of you knowing your strengths will tell you what your needs are. The value of you knowing the way you naturally think, feel, and behave is going to dramatically affect the needs, the motivators behind your action steps. They could be exactly the same thing for the same goal, in this case, health. But what's going to impact that, what's going to change that is this person's natural way of thinking, feeling, behaving, and this person's natural way of thinking, feeling, behaving, and the process needed there, right? I shared this a few weeks ago where I talked about if you look at your iPhone, you have a custom operating system, right? I have a custom operating system. You have one, your neighbor has one, your spouse has one, your friend has one, your child has one. They have a unique custom operating system. And the more and more they understand their operating system, the better off they're going to figure out, oh, this is what I need as I take action towards my goals. These are my needs. These are my motivators. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if this makes sense, because I want to make sure that you guys, I love sharing different things like this before our interviews so that you guys can, gain some information and maybe some insights and some value as to your strengths and how, some of this could relate to you. I'm sorry, my dog's going crazy here. I'm trying to get her down. She will jump right into my lap if I let her. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps, because that is one thing that I know strengths has, what's interesting. I have to say, I just had a friend. I want to say a little off my game. I'm just a little flustered a bit. I had a friend pop over that I have not seen in roughly, I'd say it's been about 3 years. And I worked for them. And I helped them with their business. And they ended up, unfortunately, losing their business. And this was not a small business. This was a 26-year family business that was doing, $10 to $12 million a year. So it was a very large business. And I was helping them kind of pull out of, restructuring some different things. Sorry. I was helping them and, to kind of save it. And unfortunately, it was, just too far gone. But I guess I'm saying this because I realized how far I've come because of strengths and what I do now. Like what I did back then, this was 4 years ago. What I do now is totally different because of strengths, because I understand my motivators. I understand what I love about what I want to do, right? What I want to do for a living. Back then I was doing things, I was in sales, I was in, management and, that sort of thing. And I didn't really love it. I didn't love what I did, but strengths has really helped me fine tune what I actually want to do. And it was just interesting as I'm talking to her. It was literally like she left literally 2 minutes, 3 minutes before we started this. And I was like, I gotta go. I just haven't seen her in so long. And but it really kind of like, I was like, wow, I felt like I was transporting back in time to a few years ago. And it so much has changed, so much is so different. And it took me back for a second as I'm totally doing something totally different. And I love I not just like what I do, I love what I do. So again, I just really hope you guys, those of you that have your reports, those of you that have family, those of you that have friends, those of you that are encouraging people, really understand the value of what you have in front of you. And it's more than just some cool pieces of paper. There is processes, there are motivators, there are needs, there are very specific things inside of your strengths that can dramatically change what you're doing, where you're headed, how you're going there. They can show you so many different things that might be hindering you in so many different ways. All right. Okay. So, oh gosh. Anyways, I was just, okay. I'm back. I'm in. I'm game. All right. So let's go ahead and bring Heidi on now. Super excited to have her here. Let me bring her on. Before I do, let me bring her up here now. I showed up her whole report, and that way you can guys kind of just get a sneak peek of who she is. I'm going to bring her up here. Let's see here. Let's make her a co-host so that I could have her promote to panelist. Let's move her into the co-host spot. Give me 1 second here. Everything to adjust. Super excited to have her on tonight. Let's see here. Make a co-host. There we go. So she can, there we go. There we go. All right. Heidi, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming on. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing. So
Good.
excited to be here tonight.
Good. Well, I'm excited to be here with you. And you know what's fun is that you were also part of, a different interview series that I was doing before. And so let's be honest, you're a pro at this, Heidi. This whole strengths thing, you got this stuff down pat, right?
You're kind. I feel work in progress, but I have made, this has been very life-changing for me.
We all are. We all work in progresses, right? So that's the truth. Now, before we get going, I wanted to introduce you, but there's only a little bit of information that I have about you. So how about you do me a favor and tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, a little bit about, your background, family, all that good stuff, what you do.
Okay. I have been married for 23 years to my husband, Jeremy. He owns an electrical contractor's business. And I was a teacher. I still am a teacher, but my career in that sense has ended. I taught in Montessori for the last almost 20 years. And 10 of those years I had my own school. And I elected to close my doors during the pandemic because teaching children to read with a mask on made no sense to me. And I felt like it was gonna, the integrity of my program was gonna go out the window. So I was already kind of trying to decide if that was something I was gonna do, and that kind of just helped me make the decision. I am a proud mom of 2 awesome kids. They're my miracle babies. And I call them my babies, but they're not really anymore. My daughter's 19 and she's also getting ready to serve a mission. And I have a 15-year-old son, and I am the shortest in my family. My husband is 6'7". I tried to balance things out and that didn't work. So everyone looks down on me. But I have homeschooled my kids, and my daughter just graduated with her associate's degree in an early college program, and my son just began that program. And thankfully, he just finished his first semester, and it is summer break for us, which I couldn't be more excited about.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. That's good. That's good. So family, you have business, you have your own business too, right? As well, besides the Montessori school?
I do. I have a health and charity program that I'm a part of, and I have nutraceuticals that I help people feel better with, and I love that. And I am working on building my life coaching program, and I just love being with people. I just love it. And this assessment helped me to plant my feet firmly in that. And I am so grateful for that.
Awesome. 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 Well, you're the best. Thanks so much. So I have been, you were part of, right when we first introduced strengths into the mastermind, right? You were at the very beginning of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've had, yeah, probably a lot more experience than some other people have. I've worked with some different people privately. For those of you that are watching, maybe this on YouTube or at a later date. That's the great thing. I think that, I would say Heidi's been a part of weekly. Yeah. Cause I guess you've been a part of it probably longer than most people. So you definitely have, you have some stuff, with, you have some experience. That's probably the right. So right off the bat, you took the report, right? So what was your, what were your thoughts behind the assessment? Because I know when I was introduced right into the whole thing, I know how I was being introduced, but what was your take on it? Were you like excited about doing this thing? Did you understand it? Did you like another personality test? What was your take on it? What was your feeling?
I was totally excited. I felt like this was just one more thing that was going to help me understand myself. And that is the journey that I had been on. And I just kind of felt like this was a treasure chest that I got to unlock and see what was inside. And that is how I approached it. And that's what I received. It was just all of this incredible information that was just so valuable to me. I was so grateful to have that. I hear people who, and yourself, where you said when you saw positivity, you cried, and not in a good way. Yeah. And I was just so excited because I felt like I finally had some answers to why I think, feel, and behave the way I do.
I love that. I love that. You know what? You're not the first person to say the word treasure chest. In fact, I don't know if you watched Becca Self. I did her interview, and she just said the same thing. And so I'm like, oh, that's so good, right? Because, and I'm glad that you were, and this just goes. I just want to make a comment here, because as I'm thinking about this, when I was asked to take the assessment, I was just asked to take the assessment, right? There was no, there was no build up. There was no, how is it going to benefit me? What was I actually going to learn from it? It was actually introduced that here, take this assessment so I can see, what you're like, kind of thing, right? And it's not necessarily the person that invited me to do that was necessarily their fault. They didn't really know what they were asking me to do either, right? And so what's so cool about what you're saying, and now as I think about this, when people really know what they're gonna get from this, it's not me trying to be creepy and say you should take this assessment, right? So I can learn about so I can learn about you, but you should take this assessment so you can learn about you, right? So you can learn about yourself. And so I love that you point that out. So for those of you guys that are watching, or watching the recording, that would be something, because I get this question all the time. How do I get my spouse to take it? How do I get my family to take it? How do I get someone else to take it? And I think what's important is, really figuring out, do you want to take it for your own purposes? Or do you want them to take it to gain the same amount of value that you gain from it? So I love that you're saying that.
I have to share, with my daughter getting ready to leave home and go and serve on this mission, she took it probably a month ago. And And it was that same kind of enthusiasm. She wanted to know more about herself so she can go and be her best self. And I have to laugh because you would love this picture. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
I walked down the stairs and there she is with her report spread out on the table. She has the web page up from Clifton Strengths, and she's answering questions and doing all of these things. I did not tell her to do that.
Ah,
She's in the zone with this thing, and it just made my heart happy to see her embrace it as much. And she's done the same thing. It's just been a level up for her
yeah.
to reaffirm who she is and where she's going. And what a gift to be able to have that at the age of 19. Can
Oh,
you imagine if you'd had this earlier on in your life? What more confidence you could enter your early 20s when you're discovering yourself anyway, and have that part of you grounded in who you are and how you can present yourself to the world and contribute. And I love that she has that.
oh, priceless. And that's, going back to, what I was sharing about, this family, I was close to these people. I knew their extended family relationships. I managed their employees. I mean, I had to let go some of their family, so I was really involved with them. And what's so interesting is I feel like when I saw her, it was almost like, oh, well, that was a different life. And now I'm in this life. And I look back and I really think, had I had this at right 18,
Right.
20, 30, I would never have gone into industries, jobs. There were a lot of things that I would have never done because I learned, wow, this is I could have celebrated from an early age. This is what is great about me. How can I utilize these things in a career? How can I utilize these things in life and develop these skills? And that's sometimes where when we don't know, right? We don't know our motivators. We don't know the way we naturally think, feel, and behave. We develop our weaknesses. We watch other people being successful and saying, oh, well, that mom is doing something. I want their lifestyle, so I'm going to go do what they do. Or that guy is successful. I want his lifestyle, so I'm going to go do what he does. But we don't often take that really, that internal right assessment and think, okay, what do I want to do? Because we're not really taught at those young ages about the value of who we are. And so I love that your daughter, like I said, my son, same thing. He has his strengths. We talk about it daily before he's going on his mission. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little jealous, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're about ready to take on the world, and this much more than I ever did about myself, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the same, stories or hindrances, and when he does face them, because we are going to face childhood, but hopefully there'll be some foundation that I didn't have, right? Or that you didn't have for our kids to make different decisions. And so I, like you, I'm fascinated and absolutely in love with the fact that I not just encouraging my kids, but I'm encouraging people around me to fall in love with who you are, then decide what you want to go do, then decide what you want to pursue, then decide, how do you want to impact the world? And I think that's such a wonderful way to start. And so just kudos to you. That just says a lot about who you are.
Thank you.
I love that. So what was your first inclination of your assessment? So you got your assessment. What did you personally, when you got it, you read it, you're like, like your daughter, she's sitting there with the computer, right? What did you do? What were your thought process behind it?
So I was really excited, and I was a little bit relieved because empathy is my number 2 strength. And there have been some areas in my life where I have felt a little bit of a misfit because I really had no idea what empathy was. I mean, you hear people say the word, but I didn't really understand it. And I didn't understand what that meant for me. And I had been experiencing these things, but I didn't know what to call it or to define it as. And so I just felt completely reinforced after taking the assessment, because it it just helped me to step into what I was doing, but own it in a way that I never had.
Hmm.
And I was pre-med at the University of Utah, and ended up getting into a skiing accident and broke my leg and my arm. And it's really difficult to navigate the University of Utah campus because it's on a hill in a wheelchair. Not a good, not good to get to classes.
But your forearms and shoulders, right? You're
And so I had a full schedule of classes to become a doctor. I was in pharmacology and all of those things. And there was a shift in where I headed. And I've always questioned if I made a mistake, if I should have been a doctor, and I ended up going into teaching. And when I read that, my assessment, I knew that I had gone the way I should have gone. And that was a relief to me. I hadn't made a mistake or been a fraud through my life. I did what I naturally felt, behaved, and I went the way I was supposed to go. And that was huge for me to be able to realize. And being an empath, and as much as one of that I am, being a doctor would have been very difficult for me to work with patients at this level of empathy that I have. And that would have made my job as a doctor a challenge, I think. But as a teacher, it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful. And so that was a huge just reinforcement that I showed up in my life perfectly. And it's something that I had questioned for a long time.
You know what, so I'm going to pull up your assessment here because I love what you're talking about, and I want to show everyone so that they can see this. So first off, developers are people that definitely are phenomenal coaches, mentors. They're the kind of person to see the potential in people, what they're capable of being. And so I could definitely see obviously how that makes you a great teacher, right? Or and then you talked about your empathy. But one of the things here too is you look at your learner, people with high learner not just love to learn, but they also love to teach. So you look at this, and although, and I want to say this doesn't mean that, you were born to be a teacher. This doesn't mean that you can't be a doctor based on these strengths, but I love that when you read this, you definitely saw that you chose a path that really that lives inside of you, that really, like, these natural ways of thinking, feeling, behaving live so deeply in who you are and what you do. I think about that all the time with myself. Like, I think about, again, I can't help but reflect what I used to do for a living or what I used to do for jobs. And now I look at where I'm at and I look at my strengths and I'm like, that's crazy, because everything that I love to do right now that my strengths say I love to do was not doing those things before,
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting that when we really are, and I took this assessment when I was doing those things. Like, I took the assessment when I was working in those environments. And so for all of a sudden, all this shift and all these things to come, I love that you saw that. And obviously, I'm talking about the way I see it, but I think that that's very common for people to, for them to, there's a little of, what's this mean? How does this work? But then all of a sudden, once they dive into it, it's like, wow, this is me. And this is where I'm headed. And so I love that you had an experience where it validated the course correction you made in your own life.
Yes, completely. It was funny though, because, Clifton has its own definitions for the words.
Yep.
And so when I saw developer and connectedness, totally made up my own definition for what they were. And I was like, huh, that's not it at all. And I was so grateful to have their definition to back that up. You know, when you hear of developer, it's like programming and developing, you know, something, and that's not at all. And then with connectedness, I thought it was with a connection with people, and that's not what it was, and defined in the strengths. So I loved how it is defined in the strengths assessment. And then, you know, my top 4 are relationship building. And again, that was just a validation for the people in my life and the relationships that I have, and that I value those a lot, and that I am motivated by that so much.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, you talked about your empathy, and in terms of definition, right? There's, and you said this, empathy is, you know, it's a very now widely used term or word. And, you know, it describes certain people, it describes certain gifts, it describes, you know, a certain, you know, I mean, it describes so much now that sometimes we have to define really what do you mean by empathy? Because I think I might mean something else, right?
Yeah.
And so when I love that you're talking about definitions, so that when people have their report, make sure they go to the definition of what Gallup's talking about, because what your definition of empathy or someone else's or the internet's definition or someone you're working with, their definition is not necessarily what Gallup's definition is. So don't go into this with a mindset thinking, oh, this is why, or this doesn't make sense. And you're trying to define it based on what you immediately read. I did the same thing with positivity. I did the same thing with woo. Yeah. That's no strength. I don't even know why that's even on there, right? So I love that. I love that was something so immediate. And again, that's something you can immediately steer your daughter into, right? Clarify. It's like she's reading this, you're like, all right, sweetheart, go to the definitions, right? And so it's so great that we can help people really understand, you know, what they have available to them. So I love that. I love that. So what do you think? And you've already, you know, said multiple different things about different things, but what do you think would say your, you know, what was the thing that stood out to you the most? So as you're reading your report, as you're going through the information, what was the thing that was like, boom, like right, it hits you? And, you know, you've mentioned a couple different things. I love the story about, you know, the shift in your career, but what do you think something that really stood out to you as you went through this information?
I think what stood out the most for me was the empathy aspect of things. And I stated before, I did not have a clear understanding. I had steered away from self-development for a lot of years because I felt like there was way too much to fix. And I just didn't have the time or the interest to do all of that. Yeah. And self-development is so much more than that. But I had a very narrow idea of what that was. And I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so to have this strengths assessment come in this journey where I had begun to embrace self-development, that empathy portion helped me to really connect with myself as well and be able to use that strength for myself, not just for other people. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that I want to convey to people, that before you can go out and do a job or show up in your family or whatever it is you're pursuing, you have to know and love and appreciate who you are. And people will be able to see through that if you don't. And that is what this helped me to do, is to appreciate and love and accept who I was and finally be okay with that. Yeah. And that is huge. That is huge. We don't come with manuals when we're born. We don't have our own little thing of who we are. We have to figure it out. And for me, it took 45 years. And I'm grateful. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful. And it's not like I didn't know. I mean, I love ice cream and my favorite colors. I know things about me,
Yeah.
but this stuff is tricky to figure out sometimes, but it is beautifully laid out in this assessment. And to be able to have you there to help coach because you'd been through it, know where to guide people, that was huge. You were just like, I was in this river boat and you were the guide and you were just taking me along this beautiful journey and being able to point things out that I would have missed had I not had some direction and some coaching. But it's been a huge opener for me to be okay with who I am. And I longed for that for a very long time.
Well, I love that. And I think at some level, right, we all crave that. We all crave to find out, wait, what is good about me? I was introduced, into self-development. Carol Tuttle was our first introduction to self-development. It was the year after we got married. And so my wife introduced at a very young age. However, I always, because I felt like I lacked in so many areas and, I just didn't have maybe the right, just things weren't working out. Self-development to me, kind of like what you said, it was so much work. Like I just felt like I'm so broken and so messed up and I got all these different problems. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to fix. And so, and I was always on the journey of self-development, but in the process of it, I couldn't help but think, okay, all right, let's fix this problem. All right, let's fix what's broken about me now. All right, and the assessment, when I took my strengths and again, mind you, I took my assessment, I didn't touch it for 10 months later. When I did look at it and I really read it for the first time, I was like, I was blown away. I was really blown away. And I thought, whoa, like this is really me. This is how I think. This is what motivates me. Why aren't I doing this? How come I didn't know this? Right.
Right.
And so I love that part of that is, and again, like you said, I mean, ultimately, it's what we want. Like we do want our parents, our mentors, our coaches, our teachers, people in life to say, you know what, let me help you on the river, right? And kind of guide you a bit, so you can avoid certain things. And that's ultimately what I love doing with people in this Clifton Strengths assessment. I don't know your stories. I don't know your traumas. I don't know what you've been through. I honestly don't. And I would never assume to know based on your strengths. But what I do know is I can recognize motivators, needs. I recognize certain things that need to be there, that need to be met. And through that, like all of a sudden, right, ahas and different things can be made. And so I just love that, just like you at the, starting at self-development at what age, me starting at self-development at the age of 20, yet here we both are finding probably one of the greatest breakthroughs in personal self-development is first and foremost, who am I and what's great about me? Now let me pursue this idea, right?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, how many times do we go through life and we're looking at the things we need to fix? And we think if we focus on what we're weak in and we get that figured out, then we can move on the next thing that we need to fix.
Yeah.
And this gave me complete permission to focus at what I'm the best in and let go of those weaknesses that really, when you spend time in, burn you out. You're exhausted because it's not how you act and normally and naturally. And so it was just like, you can be in your strengths and run with them and focus on them. And when you do that more, your weaknesses start to pick up and gain momentum in a positive way because you're acting naturally. You're being who you are, thinking the way you do and feeling that way and honoring yourself. and the focus isn't on the negative anymore. It's on the positive. And I loved that.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I love it. Oh my gosh, I could talk about this stuff all day long. So, so obviously this is made, I mean, I can hear it. I can hear in your voice, hear what you're doing. What would you say that as you've discovered, yourself, your strengths, you're developing yourself, what would you say is your superpower?
Empathy for sure.
Empathy.
Even though it's my number two, it
Uh,
definitely has become my superpower, and something that I'm proud of. I think that because relationship building is my biggest theme, the one that I have the most in, I think it's really great that I can connect with people the way that I do and can feel and understand them that way. And um, I have learned to utilize that to gain trust with people and have just some really incredible relationships. And I love that. I just feel very blessed to have uh, so many high caliber people in my life because of the way I can bring to the table what I can bring to the table to the relationship. And empathy has by far become my superpower. And it's funny because when my sister took the assessment not long after I did, empathy is her number one.
hmm.
And because of who she is and the traumas she's experienced, she cried and just felt defeated by it because she realized, of course, not in that moment, that she had been in the basement of her empathy for a long time, but felt like it had been a negative and not a positive. But over the last 9 months, as I've been in the program and worked with her, that shifted, and she finally said that that is her superpower too. And it was so great that she was able to embrace that for herself. So I know that she wasn't a part of masterminds, but I just want you to understand the ripple effect that this has, that people might not necessarily personally coach with you or be a part of three key elements, but what you do for one branches out and touches others' lives, and you just have no idea what that does. And for me, that was so great to see with my sister, and to have empathy so high on both of ours. It's been a great way to connect with her as well.
Oh man, thank you for saying that. Thank you, because ultimately that's what I want, right? As an
Mhm.
influencer, as an activator, communication, woo, right? I love hearing that people are taking this message of value and strengths, and your husband is taking the assessment, right? Yeah, and so I just love that this is what's happening, is more and more people are looking at this, and I love that you're talking about, empathy as a superpower. I remember Becca, when I was interviewing her, she had made a comment about, that before, that people would always say, "Oh, you're just too sensitive, right? Stop being
Mhm.
so sensitive." And so this is where this word empathy is thrown out, and it can be viewed very much as a negative or as a misunderstood kind of thing. But here you are owning it as a superpower. And that's where I hope that people really look at these talents. Same thing with me, positivity and woo. Like when I saw these, I was like, this has not been a good thing in my life. How is this
Yeah.
even, this doesn't work. So the fact that we can discover these things and really own these things, and that's where, right, moving forward unapologetically, like your sister, with just empathy. I mean, how someone else might be moving with their achiever, or their responsibility, or their competitive, whatever it might be moving forward with. I just love that because your definition, your understanding of it now, you own it, right? It's not
Yeah.
this YouTube word or this social media,
Yeah.
Facebook word that you're like, oh, this is who I am, this is what I'm owning. No, you're owning it as a superpower, as a talent, as the way you naturally think, feel, and behave, and says, this is how I use it, and this is what I do with it. And I think
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. Think of if we all owned, right, some area of our top 5. If I would have owned my positivity as a child, what could I have done with that, or owned my woo and understood it, right? Same thing with your sister and you with empathy, going back, owning that as a tool, as a as something that you don't, you have, we all wish we at some point we had these Batman utility belts that we could pull on these things, when we need them. But that's a tool that you can pull out and say, hey, I can utilize this to help you, to
Yeah.
develop, to connect. And I love that's there for you.
Wasn't it with you? You mentioned with your positivity when you saw that, because you said that you had been told you were overly positive and way too optimistic about life.
Yeah.
Well, I was that same way. I was told all the time that I was way too emotional, that I got wrapped up in way too much. Well, of course I did. That is how, but it was never a good thing. It was always, and I really, I mean, I coined the phrase, I need a therapist, because I was just way too emotional about stuff. But when I learned what this was, and how it could be used as a superpower, that just let me step into myself and to own that, and to transition from feeling ashamed to being proud, and not in a boastful way, but just honoring me and what I have. And I don't know if you ever did this. Maybe this is crazy, but I always wished, like, I can sing okay, but I'm not ever gonna be the lead singer in a band. Let's just face that. But I was always envious of those people that just could open their mouth and sing
Yeah.
these songs and have such an incredible voice. And I felt gypped in some ways, because that isn't something that I was blessed with.
Yeah.
But as I did the strengths, empathy was something that I was blessed with. That is my talent.
Oh,
And that I finally felt like I hadn't been gypped or passed over. I just didn't know that was what made me so awesome, with that ability to be able to have that connection with people and to feel at their level what they're experiencing. And so I kind of found like my lead singer voice, through empathy. I
yeah.
stepped into that and have been able to own that and feel pretty incredible that that's my talent.
Oh, I just love that you're saying it that way, because as kids, right? Let's go back to being kids again. As kids, we can't help but look at the lead singer, or look at and think, man, they were more blessed than I was, right? God gave them a talent and we got robbed. And so unfortunately, it hits our subconscious, and then we act that way, right? We move that way. And here you are now recognizing, no, just because this lead singer has their voice, I have empathy, and this is how I help the world. This is how I help heal the world. This is how I move. And oh my gosh, Heidi, that is so good. That is so good. I love that you see it that way. And that's awesome. That's incredible. That's,
Thanks.
yeah, no,
I
that's,
love it. I have to just thank you. This is just 2021 was just a huge, amazing year for me. And we were in the middle of a pandemic, and I just feel like I had a completely different experience in discovering who I was
Mhm.
and being able to honor that, and just really amazing, really amazing.
I love it. I love it. So with that being said, now owning your superpower, being who you are, what are some of the successes that you're finding with your strengths? How are you utilizing them in your daily basis?
So I have to share this. So with the pandemic, I closed my school. So my last teaching day in the classroom was March 13th, 2020. And we did home packets and things to get us through to the end of May. And then I really wasn't sure if I was going to reopen. I was waiting to see what mandates were and what was happening with the schools in my area. And then I decided to close my school. And I really shut the door, and I did not go back into it for 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how much of my identity was attached to teaching and who I had become. And I felt like I kind of lost myself when I closed my school. And so after the strengths assessment that I took and understanding it took a couple months to understand what I was motivated by, but I was motivated by people. And so I decided that it was time to face what was hiding behind the doors in my school, and decided that it was time to clean it up, put things away in storage bins that I was going to use later on, clean out what I wasn't going to. And I used people as my motivator, and I invited 25 people over for Thanksgiving. And there was no way they were going to fit if I didn't clean this space out.
Yeah.
And so from Halloween to Thanksgiving, just this last Halloween, I sat in that school and cleaned it out and worked and cried and processed and felt all the feelings. And it was hard. I mean, it was a lot of hard work, but I took action on that. And I am so pleased to say that I set 3 banquet tables full of food and china and had 25 people over for Thanksgiving. And I don't think that I could have set that goal if I hadn't understood what motivates me. And really, this just helped me move through those things because of my strengths and who I am and how I want to show up in life. And a really interesting thing happened. I had all of this stuff, teachers have lots of things and all this curriculum and all of these teaching supplies that I used that were at one time useful and important, but they no longer served the same purpose.
Yeah.
And they had stayed in a space that took up a lot of space. And as I started putting it away and clearing the space, it gave room for more to be received. And I received that in relationships and people being able to come into that space and to spend that time with me. And it was so fruitful to be able to have that all come to me at Thanksgiving. My heart, joy, I was just overcome with joy to have that space be utilized again and in such a positive way and strengthen relationships. And people who didn't have a place to go had a place to go in my home and could feel my love. And I wouldn't have been able to offer that if it hadn't been for putting them as my motivator and getting to work and doing what I needed to do. And I thank this assessment for helping me to be able to understand that.
Gosh, that
So
is,
that's how I use it in my life.
I love that. I mean, that's absolutely what people, or what we all should be doing, right? That's the purpose of when I talk about different motivators. I want to bring that back so that, we can kind of bring in a full circle. So here, your goal is to clean the room, right?
Mhm.
And if my wife, who leads with strategic, is going to go after this, there better be a map, there better be a process. She's got to know the details, right? She's got to know what it's going to look like in the end. And you're talking about, even if you listen to your entire story, it was all about the people and all about people that were going to have a place. And that's, and that the action steps of putting one box away, or the action step of sweeping the floor, or the action step of throwing this away, or the action step of reorganizing the closet. None of those action steps changed. It was the motivator that triggered, as it was your morning coffee, right? It was that way of waking up, and that jolt, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to do this, because this is what the experience of this is going to be. And I love that I mean, you described that perfectly. And I think that this is my favorite. If there's anything, because I do get to rub a lot of shoulders with a lot of strengths coaches. In fact, I was on a call. This was what's today? Wednesday. Yes. So yesterday I was invited on a call, and this gal was talking about what she had, from a different strengths coach and that sort of thing. And one of the people on the call said, Phillip, can you come on? Can you describe what we're talking about? And I started talking about the motivators and needs in these, and all of a sudden they're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Wait, what? How does this work? Right. And it's because for me, it's probably been one of the greatest things. Again, I chose into this idea of coaching and mentoring, not because I felt this calling, not because I have, these things. This whole concept and this idea was not something I ever felt I was built for. I didn't have any examples. I went and watched other mentors, and I thought, oh, you're cool. Thanks for changing my life. But never in a million years did I pursue that. It was only because of strengths, that there was something that I saw in strengths. And then all of a sudden I clicked into my motivators with my woo and my positivity. And, so just so you guys know, before I do these interviews, and I talk to them and just kind of, make sure they know what we're going to be, a little bit about some questions and stuff. And one thing that Heidi said, and I appreciate this, Heidi, that, oh, Phillip, I love these interviews. You're so good at this. I love how you're doing this. And I thought, thank you. Because this is one of the things, if you guys read about my positivity, and where it shows, my positivity is all about celebrating what's great about you. That's literally what it says in my positivity, because of my activator, my woo, and my communication. It isn't just positivity about just, everything in life. It's specifically positive about people and what makes them different and what makes them special, and celebrate their wins and encourage them. And that's why I love doing this. And that's why I love being a coach, is specifically because I think you're amazing. I think you're unique. And I want to show you how to get what you want. That's literally, it in a nutshell. So I love that that through the process of, of you going through the program, you and I working together, that was ingrained, that became such a real thing in your life, that you were able to actually apply it, right? It's not just information, but that you actually were able to take this and say, okay, I got this goal, or I got these things, I got to do. And after shutting the door on something for 18 months, opening the door back up and saying, okay, this is my motivator, that you can get after that. And I love that.
Yeah. If you were to just go to the Gallup Strengths, Clifton Strengths website, and did the assessment, they are motivated to help in the job sector, and help managers understand their teams with these kinds of strengths.
Right.
And I can see the value in that. What a valuable thing to be able to understand that about employees. But what I love here is that it can be applied in so many other areas than just a career or a job. And as a woman and a wife, I think, for me, I'll speak for myself, that we downplay that as a job, that it has value. There's no paycheck that comes with that. And so you wonder what you're doing, if it is bringing value and contributing. And how many times as a parent are you just like, I'm messing them up. Instead of saving for college, I'm going to save for a therapist, and pay for the therapy. But it has helped me be a better mom, because what I want my kids to understand is how awesome they are, and how unique and beautiful they are, and how many of our kids believe their parents because we're supposed to say that.
Yeah.
But when they see me show up owning who I am and loving who I am, and believing in my strengths, I get to model that for them and reinforce that in a quiet way that I don't have to tell them about themselves. They are seeing that. And we all know, when we see someone do something, we mimic it. That's just a law of learning.
Yep.
And whether that's negative or positive, it happens. I mean, how many times have you slipped with a swear word and then your kids saying it, but this is no different. It's
Yep.
no different.
Yeah.
And so it did help me clean out a space in my home where I had a school for 10 years, but it has also helped me every day in a practical way apply my strengths to be a better mom. And that's been my number one goal in life, is a mom, and to be able to step into this, especially as they're getting ready to go out into the world. I am so grateful that this is what I get to model to them, and help them to step in and own who they are in these early years.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Well, obviously you are amazing and you're using your strengths, you do all these different things. And one thing that I think is important for people to know, right, is that we all struggle. I mean, and we all do. Even though I know my strengths, I struggle. The difference that I think now more than ever is I pinpoint my struggle. Like I'm like, oh, and so I know what's exactly in my way. I can work on that. I can figure that out so that I can get past the wall faster. I can move forward faster, make decisions quicker. So what would you say as you're on this journey? And although strengths has served you, what would you say the one strength or talent or combination that you say you struggle with?
Probably learner has been one of my, I sit in that basement probably a little more. And the one thing with learner, is we love to learn, but then I tend to think I need to know more. And so I need to learn more to do more. And that doing more, I don't do because I need to learn more. And and it's like that, what is it, paralysis by analysis.
Yes. Yes.
Just get stuck.
Mhm.
And I have been stuck, and that's something that I realize through the assessment, that I am in this. But the great thing is, I love this idea of balcony and basements, because like you said, now I can see it when something is happening that I don't like. I now have this kind of anecdote to sit and say, okay, well, I'm here, I'm in the basement. What one of these things has gotten me here? And then it helps me to more quickly be able to get out of that by a design of questions and things that you have been so great to teach, to help get out of that. And so it's not to say that, I mean, every day's a hop, skip, and a jump through daisies and daffodils, but I'm able to get through those harder moments quicker and get to a better place because of understanding this. And I think empathy has been another one where, although it's my superpower, it can also be my kryptonite at the same time. And that one is probably the extreme, the one that has the most extreme, because I can get into the basement quickly with that.
Mhm.
And I have to be really careful, with that strength.
Yeah.
And I think you said, what is our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness.
Mhm.
That is totally empathy for me too.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we all have to realize, right? Our greatest superpower at the same time can also be that thing that we overdo, we
Yeah.
underdo, right? Because it's so natural, it's so strong, it's so predominant in who we are. And I love that you're mentioning, obviously, the very thing that you talked about, your superpower, right, is also one that you struggle with. But that also, you're talking about your learner. One thing about strengths that I have loved that really taught me, and more so than any other place, is when one thing I know when I'm struggling, right? We all know when we're kind of depressed, right? We all know when we're like, yeah, I think I'm depressed. I think I'm not doing very well, right? I haven't showered in 3 days. I have not left the house in 5, right? All these different things. There's things that happen. You're like, okay, I think I'm not doing well right now, right? One thing though is I love that you talked about how, your learner, and you talked about the basements and the balcony and basements. You know what it looks like when you overdo something. When I'm depressed and I haven't left the house in 5 days, I don't really know what's wrong, right? So I have to go through the whole thing. But when you know that you're not making a decision because you feel like you need to learn more before you make a decision, immediately you know that's what's holding me back. And that's one thing I love about strengths. Empathy. You mentioned empathy, right? When that space of empathy, when you're serving a relationship and helping a relationship because of the emotional connection you have there, what you sense, what you feel, what you're aware of. Where it dips into it is when you own it, right? When you take it on, that sort of thing. So, but you know it. You know exactly when that switch happens. And so often, as we struggle in life, we all hit these walls that are bloodied and battered, and we got skin, we got pieces of our hair, scalp,
Yeah.
and they're real. The pain, the stories, the traumas, they're they're not just real physically, but they're real emotionally, right? And
Yeah.
that's where they take the biggest toll. And what's hard is all we see the wall, and all we see are failures, all we see are struggles, all we see is pain. And the great thing that I've learned about strengths is that if you know how to look, you can see, oh, that right there is my woo, that right there is my disciplined, that right there is my strategic. And if you can see it, then you know how to address it. When you can't see it, and it's just, it hurts and
Yeah.
it's bad, and then we feel broken, and then we feel not good enough, and then we feel like we're spiraling because we can't see it. And so part of the thing that I love about teaching strengths is not just what your motivators and your needs are, but also helping people recognize this is actually the wall that's in your way. This is
Yeah.
what's hindering you. And I love that you said that about your learner, right? You know that when it's time to take action in something, the moment your brain says, oh, I need to learn more, you know exactly what's in the way,
Yeah.
so you can adjust that. And
Yeah.
that's so powerful. I love that.
One thing that that has helped me is by knowing that, and I will tell you, that thought comes into my mind a lot. Oh, you don't know enough to be able to do that. Even now, I mean, it is something that I battle with, but because I know that's what I think and how that comes up, I've been able to kind of set um, some things into play, and bravery really has become a big thing for me.
I
Like
love
every morning, part of my affirmations is that I am brave, because I have this knowledge, but now you've got to go do something with it, and that has been scary for me. And so by manifesting that I'm going to be brave, and then committing to it, that psychological uncomfortableness that we avoid, but that's really what it is. It's not the action that's really difficult, the physical movement. It's that mental uncomfortable that we don't like. And there's this movie, there's a quote that 20 seconds of just pure
insane.
bravery, insane, what is it, insane,
I think it's,
uh,
yeah, 20 seconds of insane brain or something like that. Yeah, I know.
yeah, but that's what I am able to deal with my learner when I get in. And so I've been able to recognize that process and know that I've got to just insane courage. I've got to just push through, show up for that time, and trust myself that I've learned enough and that I can go forward and do that. So that's been really big, of getting me out of that racket cycle that you tend to get into and get deeper and deeper and deeper. And like you said, you don't shower for 3 days, you don't leave the house for 5, and you're just like, I'm falling apart here.
Yep.
And so it's really great that there's a way to be able to get out of that. You don't have to stay there, and the assessment can help you to understand that better. So of course you're going to have bad days, and of course you're going to be sitting in your basements.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
But there's a way out, and there's a ladder. Everyone has a ladder in their basement to get you out of it.
Yep.
You just have to understand where it's at.
Oh gosh, I love it. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I love that. So as we're wrapping this up here, Heidi, what would you say is, what would you say is your greatest understanding, your greatest takeaway that you've taken away from you being on this strengths journey?
Well, I think that this may be redundant, but it's again just being able to know and love myself, and being able to trust myself. Gosh, the most I think I ever have, that second guessing and doubting myself has really taken a huge step behind me to where I feel brave to step into who I am and show up as who I am. And I think what's been so liberating is I am like a box of cookies on a shelf in a grocery store, and not everybody is going to choose me or like me. And that's okay. That's why we have this variety to choose from.
Yes.
And I can be okay being that Heidi box of cookies. And it's okay if someone passes me by or doesn't care to partake of that. And that's okay. I'm not what they need.
Yeah.
And that is liberating, that I don't have to try and please everybody or show up in these insane ways, these expectations that we put on ourselves to show up in a job or show up in our family and be the yes man to everything. And then we just end up totally lost, and we don't know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what our purpose is. And that is what the strengths has done for me, is it's just been such an empowerment movement for me to be able to step into my own self and again be able to I want to reach lots of people just like you do, and you're so good at it. But we forget that the people that are the most important are the ones that live under our roof. And if we fail at those relationships, that ripple effect can't happen. And don't discount the impact that you have with your family members and your children and your parents and all of that, because it does make a difference. And to be able to have that with my kids, we had an incident back in February where our home was broken into while my son was home alone here. And that was a scary thing to go through for our whole family, but especially for my son. And it was a very pivotal moment that I had to be careful helping him to navigate through and to allow him to process what he went through, but learn to focus on what he wanted instead of all of these negative and traumatizing things that your mind goes to, the what ifs and we just got broken into. And one of his friends said that he just lived through his worst nightmare. I mean, my son just went through somebody's worst nightmare. That's terrible,
Yeah, right.
But it's because of these strengths and being able to step into what I'm good at, that I was able to help him get through that. And now it's just something that happened. He didn't attach anything else to it because I was able to help him get through that. And so, like you have been my guide in a raft on a river, I've been able to be his guide in his raft on the river. And that is a beautiful thing to be able to take and help people navigate through their lives. And so I started in my own house, and I intend to go and help others just like you have. And that is a beautiful gift to be able to do for others and to have this part in life to be able to help and connect with people.
Yeah. Well, what a great reminder, Heidi. You know, I remember when I first took my assessment, the first thing I wanted to understand was my own marriage. That was my
Yeah.
first goal, right? Was when my wife took the assessment, I took the assessment. That was the whole reason why I wanted to pursue this idea of getting coaching. Because, you know, we've been through lots of things. We did marriage counseling. We've done it all. But nothing has taught me more about her than the actual strengths assessment. And now it's obviously, you know, has changed where I've been doing other things with that. So same
Yeah.
thing, right? As it plays in your home. So I love that.
Yeah.
So
And
if
of
there,
course, I'm going to push relationships because they're my top four,
that's right. Of
Of
course you're gonna, that's right. That's by default. I love that. So if there's one thing that you would encourage, that you can encourage people to do, if there's one thing that you have, you know, that has impacted your strengths journey, your strengths process, what would that be?
m- Most important thing is to uh, step into who you are and love yourself. And I know that is hard.
Mhm.
We have made mistakes. We have had circumstances that were out of our control. And I know because I did this to myself, a lot of blame and shame was put on those things, to where I felt like I was too broken to fix, and I didn't have enough qualities or talents that added up to much.
Mhm.
And boy, was I wrong when I chose to go on the journey of understanding who I am and trusting that process and learning to love me. And that has been my my goal when with Kirk Duncan was to love myself, and I was able to cross that goal, take it off my vision board, um, because of what he taught in introducing the strengths and being able to love who I am. And I know, I don't know, some are probably going, oh my gosh, this is so gushy and mushy, but
I
I
love it.
we overlook how critical it is that the most important person in our life is ourself. And that isn't selfish. If we don't love ourselves and think of ourselves the way we think of our kids, and think of ourselves the way we want to I mean, when we think of our kids, we want them to be the happiest and provide the best, and yet we never turn the mirror and look at ourselves
Mhm.
and do the same for ourselves. And the strengths assessment can help you on that path to embrace who you are and own the strengths that you have, that's how you naturally are, and you don't have to fight against that anymore. And
Mhm.
you get to just step up and be the best you, that and there's no duplicate. I
Mhm.
mean, I can compare this with my daughter and my husband's, and even though we have some of the same strengths in the same place, it is not the same combination. And that's beautiful. Who wants a world of the same box of cookies? We
Yep.
don't. We want different. And we show up differently and help in different ways because of that. So I'm just grateful for the way it's helped me to identify who I am and own who I am and love me. And And I'm the most important person for being able to be successful in my life and then help others be successful.
I love that. Well, I don't think, thank you for everything you said, because I don't think what you're saying is too emotional or too gushy, or in fact, sorry, I think it's a message that needs to be said more often. You know, I talk about people, when I do a lot of coaching, I talk about people as a cup, right? And we have to fill our own cups, number one. But we want the foam, we want the overflow to connect to people. We don't want to pour onto people, because every time we pour, we spend that time, energy, we all that investment. And then when we're looking back at our cup, we can't help but grow a little resentful, a little bitter, a little hurt. And almost like now we have this expectation, hey, I poured on you, you better fill me up. You better fill me up, right? But when we fill our cup up, when we take care of ourselves, when we make ourselves a number one priority by recognizing and valuing what's amazing about us, then we're just constantly overflowing and touching all the world around us. And if everybody did that,
Yes.
gosh, what kind of world would we live in? You know?
Yes.
And so I don't think in fact, if there's anything that strengths that, like, it really showed me from that, I remember that morning when I was reading it, it was the first time that I ever thought, wow, I am pretty cool. Like, I am pretty amazing. Like, I am pretty awesome. And I am great. I can do great things. So I think everything that you said is spot on. And that's my hope. And that's I think Gallup's hope, right? Is that, Don Clifton's hope is that instead of, and I, love this, this quote that I usually share, right here, is recognizing what will happen when people start, focusing on what's right with people rather than fixating what's wrong with them. I mean, think about it starting there. So no, I think everything you said was beautiful. And I think it was, just perfect. That's
What you
what it is.
said. I love what you said about the cup, where actually 2 weeks ago I was given a gift. It was a teacup and a saucer, and on the tag it says serve from the saucer. And the cup is for us. We're the cup and we fill it. And I really think for me, my cup is filled with my strengths and the self-care that I give. And when that overflows, then you're able to give others what's on the saucer, and you serve them the saucer, and the cup is for you. And I just think that that's beautiful what you said. I just love you. I just think we're lifelong friends. That's my intention. And you just have been so pivotal, not only for me, but for my family's life and the direction that I'm heading. You helped me wake up to who I was. And I'm so blessed, so blessed to have you in my life, and the paths that we cross and continue to get to cross in. And this has just been such a delight to be able to do with you tonight.
Well, thank you, Heidi. Thank you so much for joining me. And likewise, I really appreciate you. You're a great example of everything that I hope for. You come into my life because I get to play first and foremost like me. And like you said, you get to decide, is Phillip my brand? Is Phillip my flavor of cookie? And if not, that's okay. And the more and more we be this, we start to attract and connect with relationships that we resonate with, right?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what we want. We want to be surrounded by, we want to open up to different ideas, but to know that we're all on the same wavelength and we're connecting that way. I just love that. So thank you for being here tonight with me. Thank you for joining me. And it's meant the world to me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a wonderful night.
I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye. All right. Oh man, that was so much fun. All right, let me move her off here and then we'll get back. There we go. I think that is, there we go. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining me, for that. I absolutely love doing interviews, and like I said, I spoke with Heidi earlier tonight I usually just 5 minutes and just kind of, cover a few things, but I love that's exactly why I love doing this, is because I want to hear how, I'm passionate about strengths because of what it's done for my life. I'm passionate about because I see things that I think other people can benefit. What I really love is how other people actually start utilizing them. That's the goal, right? Is how are they taking action? How are they applying them? What are they doing with them? And so, if you would love to be, part of this interview, if you know someone that is interested in a strengths test or strengths assessment, I mean, connect with them. Like Heidi said, she's had family members. I'm sure she's had friends, right? I know that there was at one point where her and I were talking about, she was so excited about this. She's like, she even asked me, right? I'll say this, right? I remember when you asked me about becoming the strengths coach, right? Or, doing other things, because isn't it fascinating when we start learning about not just the way we naturally think, feel, and behave, but when we start learning about the way other people naturally think, feel, and behave, and how their life is impacted and what can change there. So I just love that. I absolutely love that. So what I want to do is I want to leave with you guys as we end tonight. I just want to, just a reminder, right, as to be very clear on where you're headed. This is the goal, the direction, what you want to do, right? Whatever it is here, whatever the goal is, just know that whatever your process or your action steps, whatever you have, look at your motivators. Look at what motivates you in that process, and are you doing it? Just ask yourself those questions. Am I motivated by my goal? Am I motivated by my goal? And if you're not, are you looking for what motivates it? Because if you don't find it, then the goal just becomes another goal that we make, right? Another New Year's resolutions we don't hit, another thing on our vision board, and we chalk it up as a failure. And it's not a failure. It's really not. It's more often than not, you're just not looking internally the way you naturally think, feel, and behave to discover what motivates you taking action with those action steps. That's it. It's really that simple. And the more and more you understand that, you're going to reach goal after goal after goal because you know how to find them. You know how to look for them. Okay. So there's a couple of different things that I always try to cover, making sure that people know as they're taking their strengths assessment, take a picture of this and make sure you guys know is number one, in the process of mastering your strengths. And just like I was talking with Heidi, right? I am still on a daily basis experiencing Phillip. I spent 40 years running my life a certain way. Now, over the past 3 years, when I was introduced into strengths, and now that I started really getting it the last few years, right? Now I'm just, okay, now I have to relearn, right, ways of life and that sort of thing. I don't have what she was talking about, her daughter at the age of 18, 19, taking the assessment, my son taking it at 17. I didn't have those luxuries of discovering the way I naturally think, feel, and behave, what motivates me in these processes. So, we learned through a lot of mistakes, right? a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of stories, a lot of traumas. So as you're mastering your strengths and moving forward, make sure you have a clear understanding. Do you know your report? Do you know your strengths? Do you know what they mean? Are you aware of how they impact your life? Are you aware of how they play in your life? You want to be aware of both sides, how it serves you and how it hinders you. You want to be aware of the balcony. You want to be aware of the basement. You want to be aware of the strengths within that talent, but you also want to be aware of the weaknesses within that talent. Because more often than not, what's holding you back is actually one of your strengths. That's more often than not what's holding you back. That's literally, when I work with people, more often than not, it's actually found in your top 5. That's what's holding you back. It's right there because it's the way you naturally think, feel, and behave. Just like what she was talking about, her learner, just like what Heidi was talking about, her empathy, right? Our superpower, my woo superpower, it's also the very thing that holds me back often. Okay. Appreciation. Do you actually appreciate, like as we're talking, right? You can hear in Heidi's voice, she has learned to appreciate who she is. And this is, again, a constant evolution, because I love what she said, right? Even though she has similarities to maybe her sister, right? Her sister has empathy at number 1. She has empathy at number 2. Similarities to her husband, similarities to her daughter. I have activator at number 3. My wife has activator at number 3, right? 6 out of my talent themes, 6 out of my 10, actually Melissa has in her top 10 as well. Yet we although there are similarities, we are more We are more different than we are similar because of the unique, complex combinations that each strength create. Every single strength creates a new one, right? The way Heidi's empathy at number 2 is going to be different than her sister's empathy at number 1 because of the other combination of talents. So even though we are similar, right? We're men, we're women, we're husbands, we're wives, we're coaches, we're mentors, we're entrepreneurs, we're whatever we are also very, very complex, and we're very different. And so just know that, okay? So that you're appreciating your uniqueness. Practice using your strengths. I talk about this all the time. And luckily, Heidi has, I've had a chance to kind of talk with her one-on-one as well. And one of the things that I'm always talking about is, practice utilizing this particular strength. How is practice utilizing this today? I remember she was talking about, there was an instance where she had such a great time and she used her developer, she used her connectedness, she was at lunch with someone, and she was able to recognize her in the moment utilizing this particular strength because it's on the forefront of our brain, right? It's on the forefront of what we want to do. And so it's important that you're always looking at that. How can I practice utilizing it, with date night, lunch, dinner, with my friend, with the dishes, with the laundry, with cleaning the house? Look at what she accomplished. She accomplished something she shut the door on for 18 months. She was ready to open up the door because she was motivated by people and an event and a party. But before that, right, the fact that even that to approach that was difficult. So it was understanding what motivates her that all of a sudden that came into play. So the more and more you practice, the more and more you start to see what those motivators are. Next is apply them at what you do, at what you want to do. So we start sometimes applying them at the dishes, right? Applying them on date night, applying them, within our relationships. Then we actually start applying them in coaching or business or as an entrepreneur or whatever we're doing, right? That's exactly what I did. I never thought I would coach, and I never thought that this would end up being this way. I just kept applying, practicing. Next thing you know, I'm giving advice. Next thing you know, I'm coaching, right? And I love it. I absolutely love it. So just know that this is a process as you get to where you want to be doing this, okay? Partnerships and relationships. This is something I talk about all the time. As Heidi, as her husband has taken the assessment, her daughter has taken the assessment, her sister has taken the assessment, she is now having conversations and acknowledging and appreciating their unique strengths. Maybe being aware, right? I love what she was talking about, her son and what he was going through. It gave her a chance to realize, oh man, my son has different needs. My son has different motivators. He has a different process. So I need to slow down and allow him to experience his, right? And I think this is so important that most people miss. This is why I became a coach. Right here is what it did for my own relationship. That's 100% why I became a coach, because it blew my mind what I could understand about my wife because of this. And the last is self-expression and regulation. This is very important. How, my empathy, how much I need to use it. Do I need to pull it back, right? And we do this with every strength: developer, positivity, connectedness, deliberative, context, competition, doesn't matter. You want to learn how to express and self-regulate. So in the process of mastering your strengths, this is what you want to be very clear on. Now, if this is something that you want to take a deeper dive in with your own goals, right? You have goals that you feel like you're just not accomplishing. You're not getting there. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation and let me help you get on the process of mastering your strengths so that you can look for your motivators, so you can look for your needs. Because your goal can be reached. It's accomplishable. People do it every day, right? People have accomplished the very same goals that you want, the very same goals every single day. So why aren't you doing it? Is it because you don't know what to do? Most likely you do. Most likely, most people know, I have a business, I have a health goal, I have a money goal. We know what to do, but we often don't know where to find that motivation, right? That jolt, that energy, that passion that we need to do actually within the action steps. And that's what I can help you see within your strengths. So 2 things. Number 1, if you have not taken your strengths assessment yet, or if you have someone that would love to take it, have them go to here, 3ke.to/34strengths, and they can take the assessment right there. And then also have them book a call, or even yourself, book a call and let's chat. Tell me what your goals are. What is the goal that you're trying to accomplish? What are you trying to move forward in? What are you trying to get that you're struggling getting? You know what to do. You know the action steps. The action steps, you know, but you're struggling with connecting with them, right? I have a great person that I work with all the time. And one of the things that she talks about is people don't do things until they see themselves in it. And I love that, right? So often people don't do the action steps because they don't see themselves in the action step itself. They don't see how they can do it. How can they do it and still be authentic? How can they do it and still resonate with it? How can they do it and not lose themselves? How can they do it and not become someone else? How can they do it and not mirror someone else, like what Heidi was talking about, right? So this is where the beauty of where strengths can come into play, that when you learn to master, when you learn to go through this process, when you understand the value of this process, reaching your goals is just a matter of going through the action steps. Once you know your motivators, once you know your needs, once you pinpoint, oh, this is the one that's holding me back. Because I'm telling you right now, it's in your top 5. I can guarantee you right now, what is holding you back from what you want to achieve is literally in your top 5. There's probably a combination of things, maybe in closer down to your 6 or 10, but most likely it's in your top 5. The very things that you're motivated by, the very things that you have the highest needs for, the very things that you're just so with about things are also the very things that hold us back, because we just weren't taught how to use them as in our younger, in our earlier life, at growing up. Maybe that's the better word, right? And you don't have to face that. You don't have to not know what motivates you. Know what motivates you. Know what your needs are, and know what's holding you back. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much again. I love you guys. I appreciate you showing up on Wednesday night. We do this every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Sorry, kind of totally lost my train of thought there. I then post these on YouTube. So if you get the link, and I always put them in the, so this I'll send out Heidi's recording when I do promoting for the Saturday recording, so you guys can go back, or you guys can share that. If you've ever been to one of the previous videos, you can subscribe there and you can see all the ones that I'm uploading. But I just want to thank you guys. People like Heidi, I love it. I love it that Heidi's out there, like what she said, right? It's a ripple effect, spreading the message of strength, spreading the message of these sort of things. And so I encourage you to do that. People need to know what's great about them. People need to know what's amazing about them. It's a message worth sharing, and it's a message that people are craving, right? In a world where it's a complex, right? Complex world. We are complex people, and it's important that every single person on the planet knows that they are unique in the way they naturally think, feel, and behave, and that they're validated for those things as they move forward in their goals, and they move forward in where they want to go. All right. Thank you guys for being here. I love you. Have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you back on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.